Okay, welcome to Self-Confidence Month. I am chatting with Kerry Dolan. Kerry, do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll discuss self-confidence?
Thank you. I'm Kerry Dolan. I'm a hypnotherapist and wellbeing coach, specialising in women's health, really. So this is my area.
Awesome. So self-confidence, for a lot of us, it takes a hit in perimenopause, doesn't it?
Yeah, on so many levels. I was thinking about this as I was preparing today. Like, where do you start? Because there's obviously a lot of the physical symptoms can impede our confidence. You know, the physical symptoms, the sweating, that's not, you know, it doesn't really help with the self-confidence. And then obviously brain fog, professional situations and things like that, we start to feel really conscious about mistakes that we might make and second guessing and doubting ourselves. So there's all of that. And then on top of that, and I think this is a real biggie, is all around identity. I think our identity changes, and the things that we've maybe come to rely on or have given us confidence in the past, perhaps our looks, perhaps just youth, whatever. A lot of the things that we used to draw confidence from are maybe no longer applicable. And I think there's not such there's a real lack of positive role models in our kind of culture for aging. I mean, that is changing. And actually, I say that, but I was in a room full of menopausal and postmenopausal women the other week, looking around and thinking, actually, this is not what we expect. You know, this is not how we see. I think that's the thing. It's the image that we have rather than the reality. Because if you are lucky enough to find yourself in a room full of menopausal women, as I did, you'll see we rock. We have, you know, rainbow hair. we're like out there doing amazing things, you know, juggling families and careers and elderly relatives. So yeah, I think that there's an image issue, but
Certainly,
it doesn't actually relate to what's really happening.
I would agree that if you look at what the media would have us believe a menopausal woman looks like versus the reality of what we look like, it's very different, isn't it? I find it fascinating and frankly really annoying when I see magazine articles and they go, let's talk about menopause, and then they have images of women who are clearly in their 70s and 80s, and I'm like, yes, those women have gone through the menopause, but hang on a sec, those of us who are currently going through it are in our 40s and 50s, and we're quite a long way off from that. You know, we're certainly nowhere near retiring.
Exactly. So I think, yeah, there's so much there in terms of, and on the positive side, and I guess this is one of the things that I do, and it's always so personalized depending on who I'm working with and their needs. But in terms of identity, on the one hand, there aren't that many role models out there in terms of, you know, our lifetime, you know, what life was like post menopause for our parents or our grandparents is not what it's like for us. So there's not a huge amount of resources out there to decide, you know, who do I want to be for this second half of my life. I mean, I think the stats were in the 20s, women hit menopause at around about 58, and the life expectancy for women was not much different from that.
No.
So there wasn't the same period of time afterwards, whereas now the average age is 51 and the average life expectancy for women is 81 in the West, is 81. So there is this huge period of time now that wasn't available to us. Most of us, you know, touch wood, hopefully, are finding ourselves in good health or finding our way to good health. That's part of the journey, isn't it? And yeah, there's this huge space which is quite overwhelming on the one hand, like, okay, what do I do with this space? But it's also an opportunity to carve that out for ourselves, you know, and look around and decide, well, who do I want to be? Since nobody's telling me who I should be, and there is no kind of set prescription out there, then I get to decide who I want to be, and that, you know, that switches, I think.
And I think I have to say personally, I'm loving that. I'm loving that I don't really see a blueprint for what I should be like now. So I wear clothes that make me happy. I wear clothes that make me comfortable. I have my hair silly colors because it makes me happy, rather than thinking, oh goodness, what mold should I currently fit into? And I like that, but I can completely see that for a lot of people that's very unnerving, suddenly not having this image of what next to attain, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it depends on who's in your life. You know, some people do have people in their life who want very much to tell them exactly how they should be behaving and what they should be doing at this stage of their life. And, you know, there are plenty of influences out there. You know, you only have to go down the beauty aisle in Boots to find out all the things that we should be doing. We should be trying to make sure no one can see our grey hair or our wrinkles, or, you know, God forbid we've put on any weight or anything like that. So, you know, first thing to do is put aside all of the things that are there that aren't helpful. And once you can get past that, then yeah, there is this whole scope of, and I don't know about you, but I find it's a place I've never been in my life, you know, where I've actually, the person that I've measured myself by is me, you know.
Absolutely.
Does it make me happy? Does it make, you know, does it make sense to me?
Absolutely. And I think when I look back, you know, in my teenage years, I was always the wrong shape, whatever that meant. You know, I look back at photos and I'm like, I don't know. Then in my 20s, obviously, I say obviously because to me this was completely obvious that obviously in my 20s I would find a husband and I would have children, because that's what you do in your 20s, and then you get a grown-up job and you become a grown-up. And I never quite subscribed to that. I thought I was meant to, and then I got to the magic age where I thought all these things were going to happen, and sort of scarpered off to the Alps to go and work, because suddenly reality of being a grown-up was too much. And now I've got to my 40s, it's like, actually I didn't need ever to find a husband or to have children, and actually it's okay just to be.
Yeah, such a shame that we take so long to realize that, isn't it? Such a shame, you know, so much wasted time. It's a really interesting one. But yeah, I think it's, if you haven't already had that realization, and I think it took me longer than it sounds like it took you to get to that place in my life where I stopped looking at what I thought I should be doing and started looking at what made me happy. Then this is a really good opportunity for that. And it coincides for those people who did have children. I mean, I still have young children at home, but they're older than they were and they need me less than they did. So that coincides with being released at least somewhat from the parenting ties, and having a bit more freedom in that way to go.
Which can add more confusion as well, because if you know, if for the last, you know, for some women coming into menopause, for the last 20 years, 25 years even, they've been defined by being mum.
Yeah, it's that empty nest syndrome. I remember when I was younger hearing that phrase bandied around, the empty nest syndrome, you know, when the kids leave, and it is the end of that. And although for a lot of us, our picture might look different to that, you know, we may not have had children, but there is something in the change of the energy, the change of the stage of our life that it's that liminal space, isn't it? Okay, what next? And that can be quite exciting or quite scary, as we said, you know, and sometimes you need a framework to look at that into it more positively. I mean, one of the things that a really quick exercise that you can do, that we can do right now, is just to take a moment and just be really honest with yourself about, like, all the things that you are concerned about as you approach this stage of your life, or wherever you are. You know, what is it that's worrying you? Is it, you know, that we might have, and if you've got a pen, just scribble them down without thinking too much. But Yeah, it might be stuff about how our bodies are aging. You know, there's always on the hub a lot of talk about symptoms do obviously play a huge part, and what we're left with after that. You know, for those of us who are waiting for menopause to hit, there is that question, like, does this shit come back afterwards, or you know, what happens on the other side? So we might have questions about the physical side. It might be things about our attractiveness, about weight gain, about purpose. You know, a lot of people who have dedicated time to either jobs or families are starting to question at this stage, you know, was it worth it? You know, was that worthwhile? Have I made something of my life? Quite often it's a time to reflect on those kind of questions. So a good starting point is just to get that stuff out and write a list. So if anyone's watching this doing that, it might be an idea to pause the video and give yourself the time you need for that brain dump. And then after that, just have a look at that list and decide what you want instead, because you know there's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, which is really important to understand. And it's essentially it's the doorman to our brains. It decides what we let in and what we don't. You know, there's so much information out there, and we can't, it's overwhelming. So we have to have a filter of sorts. So that's the reticular activating system's job. And it filters information that comes in based on things like our beliefs, on the things that we think about a lot, you know, what preys on our mind. So this is, if you've ever booked a holiday and then it seems like everywhere you look, you see that place, that's the reticular. Or you buy a car and then suddenly everyone's got that car. That's the reticular activating system. So as soon as you've told the reticular activating system you're interested in something, then it's going to look to prove you right. It's going to look for things that fit in with that picture of the world. So we don't really want to prove ourselves right about all the crap stuff that we're not looking forward to around menopause, perimenopause. So if you take those items and then try to work out what it is that you want instead, you know, they're really good steer to, okay, well, I don't want to be overweight, for example. Unhealthily overweight. It's natural for us to gain some weight at this stage of our life. That's part and parcel of growing older. But you know, so then it is, well, what do you want? I want a healthy relationship with exercise and with food. I don't want to fade into insignificance. Well, what do you want to do? What meaningful things? I don't want to carry on doing everybody else's chores. What do you want? I want my family to support me more and step up. So just take your list and go through and transform it into a list of kind of, not targets, that's too yeah, I can't think of the word.
To sort of goal, yes, but
yeah,
to have a list of kind of just positives that you want to bring about.
It's more affirmations, isn't it? Just, you know, ideas of who you want to be, and it helps you to focus, I think, on what you want to shape your life as, and to give you a little bit of a sense of that, and then giving yourself the time to work through that, you know, and make those changes, but just having that in mind.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Kerry.
My pleasure.